Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Baka podcast.
Baka. It's amazing how every time you open your mouth, you prove you're an idiot.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Baka. This is our anime podcast where every 2 weeks we watch an anime and come together and talk about it. We call ourselves the Baka Club, or down in Mexico, we're known as Discoteca de la Baka. Yeah, I think
that's not a thing.
I'm pretty sure that's the correct translation. Anyway, usually we just watch these animes and we come and talk about them, and then we want you to continue the discussion that we begin here. And to do that, I need the help of my co-host. First off, we have the smog to my dwarf kingdom, Jeremy.
I completely decimated your dwarf kingdom. This must be Dwarf Fortress. Yes.
What?
Don't bring up Dwarf Fortress.
You've made my day.
You won't be able to stop them. How are you doing, man? What are you up to?
Actually, Steam had a pretty good sale going on, and I picked up XCOM, the Bureau Declassified, just because, well, I love XCOM. And I gotta say, it's not a great game, but I'm still having fun because it's XCOM. It has some serious issues with dealing with the strategy concept while being in the shoes of one of the soldiers. It's very disorienting.
Yeah, I think I remember reading the reviews of that. You're just deep in the XCOM, though.
I am. I already pre-ordered the War of the Chosen. I can't wait.
Our other host is the Amelia Bedelia to my Roger family. Jason, how are you?
We're not supposed to swear on this podcast, right?
That's right.
I was doing pretty good until one of my family members decided to insult me. No,
wait, you don't love Amelia Bedelia?
Actually, if I'm going to be honest, I have no idea who that is.
Oh, man, your childhood. I weep for it. Jeremy doesn't know who it is either, but that's Jeremy. That's not fair.
Let's be clear, though. I might not know who that is, but that ages you tremendously.
Does it? Is it old?
Yeah, it's old children's books about a maid who took everything literally. So when she hung the clothes out to dry, she hung all the clothes wet or dry. She did weird, wacky stuff because she took everything literally.
Oh, I think I saw a parody
no.
comic on that where she ended up eating.
Just tell us you've been playing Skyrim or something, whatever.
Actually, I think you and I have been partaking in the wonderful world that is Path of Exile that just came out.
Path of Exile 3.0.
Yeah.
We're not the only ones. The game's been popular, and it's hooks in me a little bit too.
Yeah, it's I'm having a blast.
How many times have you beat it now?
After I finished, I just got to Act 10 with my second character. So as soon as I beat this next act, it'll be two characters that I've beaten.
And Jeremy wants to do hardcore over there.
Yeah, I haven't actually gotten through the 3.0 yet with a single character, but yes, hardcore.
I can't live for 10 minutes long in that game. Hardcore is not happening for me.
That's the fun of it, is it makes you play so much more carefully. Everything matters more.
Yeah. Guys, guess I saw two really great cartoons that were not anime this week. Season 3 of Voltron was really good. Not as good as season 2, but still really good. And the brand new DuckTales started the day we record this on Saturday. It started today. It was an hour long, and it was fantastic. The new DuckTales.
I heard XT was coming out with a reboot.
It aired today, and it lived up to the hype. I loved it.
I got to check that out. They
gave Huey, Dewey, and Louie separate personalities this time, and they play off each other really well, and they're all voiced by very funny comedic actors, so there's a really good timing. One of the 10th Doctor Who is Scrooge McDuck, and he's actually Scottish, so that's working out great.
And apparently Scrooge runs a multi-trillion-dollar business, is the reason he has that huge money bucket.
Wow.
Right. I mean, isn't that always been the case, though?
They've never quantified it. They've always said weird not real numbers. So
Okay.
Yeah.
this would only matter to super geeks like myself.
Look, Launchpad is coming back. I think Darkwing is gonna make a cameo.
No.
Oh, I gotta see Darkwing.
Please.
But Gizmo
Leave
does.
it
Darkwing was
alone.
awesome.
I know it was, and just leave it alone.
Let it be awesome in the
Let it
past.
be.
But
what it
Gizmo
was.
Duck is coming back, and he's played
God.
by the guy who wrote Hamilton. I forget his name off the top of my head. Guys, it's going to be great. Check out DuckTales if you were, from our era.
Yeah, if you're old now.
Yeah, right.
Oh, but we should talk about the cartoon that we did watch, an anime. Look, we watched a Slice of Life anime for like the first time ever, and I didn't choose it.
Guess who actually chose it this time?
It was Jason.
Was Kisniver Slice of Life?
Yes.
No.
It was to me.
It was not. I don't know what slice of life that would be where you're getting self-mutilated, but sure, whatever.
Or
Slice of life
kidnapped,
drama.
and it's no problem.
Yeah.
Look, the point is, I believe this is our true. Boruto might have actually been kind of a slice.
Yeah.
Of life. It felt a little slice of lifey, but this is, I think, our first true one.
I think you're right.
And I didn't pick it. That's what I'm trying to get across. Don't blame me.
My animosity is directed towards Jason this week.
Perfect.
To set us up, it was directed by Yasuhiro Takinoto, who did Full Metal Panic and The Melancholy of Haru Suzumiya. Both really popular animals. I've seen Full Metal Panic. I know of the Melancholy one. It's a slice of life with a girl who has basically the powers of Q from Star Trek.
Oh, wow.
But she doesn't realize it, and all her friends do. So they have to keep her mood happy so that she doesn't blow up the world.
How is that slice of life? That actually sounds pretty funny.
Like that one Twilight episode where it's that little kid.
But it's focused around this school club that she's a part of. But
Okay.
it is slice of life, but it is very highly regarded from what I know. It was written by Yuka Yamada, and it was done by the studio's Kyoto Animation, who, along with the animes I just mentioned, did Lucky Star, Hyoka, and K-On! Heavily slice of life animes. So they definitely have a type. So let's go ahead and give our non-spoilery reviews for people who have not seen it. Go ahead, Jason. You picked it. You gotta lead the way.
Sure. I really enjoyed this anime. I picked it because I got a couple different suggestions that this was, and also it got very high ratings by critics. I felt this was a really nice palate cleanser for the normal types of animes that we watch and the ones that I normally like. This had all the ingredients for a harem anime, and it didn't turn into that. And I was really, really thankful for that. And it was nice to explore the idea of these murderous interdimensional monsters from another dimension coming here and conforming to normal life. It was a neat exploration into that idea, and I enjoyed it.
Jeremy, how about you?
I have to make it clear that my point of view is heavily influenced by the fact that I am not a fan of slice of life. So do take that into account. But did not enjoy it. I thought that the characters themselves were interesting. It has redeeming qualities, I would say, but I found it very difficult to buy into the characters, especially the super powerful, malevolent ones coming from another dimension that actually never acted malevolently. Not really. And there were a few plot holes that just drove me nuts. So it's definitely not my favorite anime.
Might be interesting to get into with you guys contrasting. I'm mostly in Jason's camp, but I've said multiple times to you guys, I find this to be cotton candy. It tastes sweet and it's good, but the more I eat, it gets a little bit too much. It is definitely, I am definitely not its audience. I do think this is a very good anime for the people who like this type of anime. I want to state that out there. If sweet slice of life is your jam, you're going to love Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid. There's nothing that I think you will not love about it. If stuff like Rage of Bahamut is more... Did I say it wrong again?
Yes, you did.
That was wonderful.
It's fantastic.
Yes. See, that's malevolence.
If fantasy action is what you're here for, you're not going to get a lot of that here. If you do love fan service, though, you'll probably stick around.
It
had fair fan service, yeah.
It's no kaijo, but it's got its fair share.
Yeah. So that's at the end of the day, though. I was happy when I watched it, but I wasn't super entertained. And that's a weird juxtaposition, but we'll get into it more. So that is our non-spoiler review. Now, before we head into the spoilers, I want to ask you guys about the opening theme and the ending theme. What did you guys think of them? Now, I want to add this into our regular repertoire. I really loved the wavy dancing in the opening. The ending, I didn't really care for. It was all right, but I loved the opening.
I thought the opening was good. I only watched it 2 or 3 times, and then I would skip past it. The song was kind of catchy, not that great, but it was happy. Like every time I listened to it, it just happy.
I felt like it got me in the frame of mind for watching this anime. And so just so you know, because I have a 3-year-old son, I'm not allowed to skip theme songs ever because they are all he is about. He danced to every song every time this anime played. If we even started like in the middle, he would rewind the anime back to the beginning to hear the song, and then we'd come back to the middle.
Oh my goodness!
The ending I wasn't a huge fan of, but it was okay.
Okay, Jeremy?
I don't really pay attention to the intro and the ending. I'll listen to it once or twice, and if it doesn't catch me, I always skip it, and neither one really caught me this time.
I'll say the opening grew on me, but yeah, the ending never really caught me either.
So I did nearly watch the first 20 seconds of the ending every time, because I don't know, something about that, like the little popping in and then like them with like doing the thing and then like filling out the calendar. I don't know. It got me every time.
Well, I'll say this about the ending. Taking notes for this anime was a nightmare for all the pop-up random scenes they throw in for comedy and not knowing if I need to be paying attention to those. So when the ending theme would start, I'd be like, finally, I can put the pencil down. Oh, I'm done. It was a relief. All right, let's go on to our spoiler section. So this is your spoiler warning, because from here on out, we are discussing plot, characters, and tearing this anime apart with our dragon claws, tying it in. Well done, Troy.
Yes.
So
this is for dragon.
This is your warning if you don't want to keep going. And we will start with the first episode. But let's introduce the characters first. Our main character is Miss Kobayashi. I don't even know her first name. I don't know if anyone ever says it in the anime, but she does not go by it. And because I was not willing to write Kobayashi all the time, I wrote K. What did you guys think of Miss Kobayashi, Jeremy?
I liked her. I know that this is Jason's favorite character, so I won't touch on some of the things that he mentioned. But some of the things that I thought were really interesting is I kept overlaying just to get a sense of whether my perception would be changed at all in the different situations that she was put into, a male lead, just to see how well she fit. And she was like a male lead in so many ways, like a stereotypical dude who goes out and drinks and he's chilling and relaxing and nothing really matters to him, very apathetic. And I thought that was really interesting because I've never seen a female character portrayed so well in that manner. So I thought she was a very well done character.
Jason, what did you think? Like Jeremy said, this is your favorite character. So
yeah, I have a little bit to say about this, so just bear with me for a second. I really enjoyed her character because it broke so many stereotypes I'm used to seeing when I watch anime, especially for a lead character and a male lead character at that. That, you know, she loved to drink alcohol, but she was not an alcoholic. And that alcohol allowed her to let loose because she was such a straight man, right? Everything in her life was very simple and efficient and put together. And so when these disasters would happen over and over, she didn't freak out like the normal anime character would, or she didn't like lose control of the situation. Every time, for instance, when Elma comes crashing into the apartment, she takes a moment, considers the situation, comments on how well Kanna's retort was to the situation, and calmly assess the situation. And she does that with her relationships as well. She finds out what's wrong, sits them down, brings them down to a state of reasonableness, and it's a mature character that I'm not used to seeing, that I was able to connect with, not only because she's in the tech industry like I am, which brings me to another point. I was really happy not to see her, because her life is so structured. Like, the move that they did just was so unaffected. Like her life was so unaffected by it. It was just something they needed. They packed up and they were there. But there was never this moment of like, I'm going to use my coding knowledge to sort out this situation.
I get what you're saying.
Nothing corny like that. I really, really enjoyed it. It just kind of fell under the umbrella of who she was. And because of that, she anchored the anime in a way that I could connect with. Because normally I don't like comedy animes. And normally I don't like these types of male leads. But
female.
Well,
female behaving like a male lead, yeah.
Right. And having her female and having her this rooted source of reasonableness within this crazy world that was going on to her, and then her rolling with the punches, because obviously, she could have been this person in this huge house that her parents left for her, and they're off on a trip, or they moved out. It wasn't anything like that. It was very normal, and to sum it up, it's like she was this character with high hopes but very low expectations. And that's kind of the way I like to go to work, is that I have very high hopes this project's going to go well, but I know it's going to suck. So, I know I kind of vomited all out, but I really connected with this character in a way that I really haven't connected with the character in anime in quite some time.
One of the things that I really liked too was that there were no nosebleeds. I was like, that stereotype trope was just gone because of her
just not there.
Well, it's actually one of my favorite things about her. A lot of people are going to talk about the sexualities of the characters in this anime, and that's not really a thing our podcast will get into. But she wasn't like a horn dog where she could easily have been. She was actually very reserved in that whole category. In every way, which grounded things a lot better, like Jason was saying. And another thing Jason had said was this felt like a harem, but it didn't. She felt like the main character of a harem, the way she handled situations, which is this character who's an evil villain supposedly, but I'm going to let them invite them into my house and show them common courtesy. And normally in the harem, that makes the other character fall in love, right? But she still had that, and even the ending, the finale, the way she stands up to the villain, those are all things you see happen in the harem anime. She was that main harem anime character, but without the harem ruining her, if that makes sense.
So it's interesting. Yeah. I think this is the first time in an anime where that whole dichotomy on the attraction part was ever explained, and I really enjoyed how this one handled it, because yes, our second main character is very overtly attracted to our main character, and later on in the season, she's just like, they come to this point where she's like, you don't like me, and she's like, it's not that I don't like you, it's that no one's ever wanted me like this before, and I have no idea how to react. I have no idea how to do this.
Yeah, she's never. Relationships aren't her thing. She seems very antisocial, very, very quiet, very reserved.
I don't know if they're going to make a second season for this. I don't know if it's in the works or not.
The manga keeps going.
Does it?
I know there's more dragons that show up eventually and stuff.
Okay. So we know that in the last episode, she's going home for the first time in a long time. I think she's got a lot of baggage and a lot of things that happened to her when she was young that have caused her to become this introvert that has social problems. And there's a scene where she's actually sitting on the floor in a sort of fetal position because she just is having so much trouble dealing with the social situation between her and Tohru, and I think Kanna as well. Or no, it was Tohru and Elsa, whatever the
Elma
dragon. Yeah. And she specifically says that, I don't know how to deal with these things. I get the sense that it's baggage.
Which is, I found really interesting because she kept saying, no, everything, I had a regular life. And it's like, he doesn't feel like you did.
And to herself. Yep.
So the next main character is our dragon Maid, Tohru, the giant chaos dragon from another dimension who has fallen in love with this simple, plain worker woman. What did you guys think of Tohru?
She was definitely comic relief. It was, like I said in the beginning, I thought it was interesting to see this whole idea of this interdimensional beast trying to conform to real world. And one of the things that gets Kobayashi to agree to this is that, underneath, when she drinks, she loves to like really geek out like otaku style over maids, which I didn't know that was a sub niche thing, but apparently there's a whole hierarchy and like categories and everything.
Yeah, there's a reason maid cafes exist over there.
That's right.
Right. So,
yep.
I don't have a ton to say about her because she was definitely not only just love interest but comic relief in a very story driving way. So it was fun to watch her. And it was fun to see things like the realization of, like, there was this moment where she's like, I'm going to do this good thing. There's this guy stealing this purse. And she uses her dragon strength in human form to catch this dude and literally pulverize him into the concrete and could have nearly killed him. And everyone around, it was like this moment of like tense fear for both Kobayashi and Tohru, where they're like, uh-oh, did I do bad or did I do good? What did I do? And there was quite a few moments like that where they're out in public and she's just like, oh, right, I shouldn't be showing people my dragon.
Yep.
And it was that learning process that I really latched onto as far as her character, because I love character growth. So but to Jeremy's point, it's from what I love about dragons, it was a bit disconnected. I had to suspend a lot of disbelief with what I know and love about dragons to think that a dragon would polymorph into a human and then become a servant just because someone saved its life didn't add up. But
yeah.
Yeah.
There were actually a few things. Did you want to go ahead, Troy?
I just don't know if I fully agree with it doesn't add up, but it'll be in the plot that will explain to me why. So I think I'll bite my tongue for now.
Okay. I think Tohru is the center of the majority of my issues with this anime because I could see her exactly like you said, Jason, as sort of the motivation for the story, the motivation for the plot. She needed to be a certain way in order for the entire concept of the show to make sense. And the problem is getting her to that point. Once you have her at that point at episode 1, well, you can carry on with your show and it will be called Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid. And it's about Tohru. But the point that they had to get her to was there had to be a somewhat awkward, not necessarily reciprocated relationship between her and Miss Kobayashi. And she had to be loyal and she had to be overpowered. And there had to be some reason that she was here and this wasn't her world and that dragons didn't exist here. And so in order to get all those things in place, they came up with some really interesting backstory for her as a dragon and what the world she came from was like. And even down to factions, like you mentioned that she's a chaos dragon, right? She's with the chaos faction, at least we could say.
She's basically an evil dragon.
Which, yes, she even comes out and like later.
They didn't label it evil,
about it. Well, she laughs later and she grins when she goes into like a demonic face.
She also mentions, do you want me to get like an evil demon to praise you or something like that? She like had evil connections and then and kind of leaked that out.
But she was obviously not, like, even in her backstory, she's obviously not evil enough to be in Chaos Faction.
Right.
Kind of discovers that.
I don't know that that's necessarily true because what we do know are facts are that she fought God and God was the one who smote her with his sword. And that's who she was dying because of facing. And she constantly would say, oh, don't praise him. I hate that guy, aligning herself with the, and also just the concept of if you have order and you have chaos. I recognize chaos doesn't necessarily have to be evil. It can be good chaos, just not wanting to be under any kinds of rules or laws. I get that from D&D history, but
find that discussion on any other Miss Kobayashi,
right?
Where they go into D&D lawful states. Okay, go ahead.
But I do think that they gave when they were discussing the different factions for the first time, they gave us images to represent the concepts for these factions, and the images were clearly skeletal, angry, evil dragons for the Chaos faction, and then you had kind of dorky dragons for the Observer faction, right? And so the concept that she was from the more evil side that was sowing chaos. I mean, they had to be labeled chaos because it's what they wanted, right? And yet when her father shows up, her father says, do you want to bring chaos to this world? Yeah, that's what our faction does. Like, why not? And just the whole concept of how their backstory merged with her and how things clashed and how so easily, even just, I had a lot of problems with how she was so powerful and everything, and yet her character behaved in a fashion that didn't show agreement with that. It didn't fit with such a malevolent, powerful character to just be like, hey.
So I disagree in some ways. Go ahead, Troy. I'll let you go first.
To me, the theme of this anime, and I mean, a lot of people are going to interpret it for sexuality, but it's you are who you are on the inside, and it doesn't matter who you're supposed to be or who you're. And Tohru is a member of the evil faction who's not an evil person, and we see it in a flashback that she explains where there's a human who's crushable in a second, and the human even laughs at her. Is like, no, you're not evil. Clearly, look at you. You're not, and mocks her. Oh, and when Tohru tells us, she's like, I mean, I could have. I just didn't really feel like crushing her. But and over and over, Tohru's like, I'll just kill them. And sometimes she's stopped by Kobayashi, but sometimes she just doesn't do it. And I don't think she is what she's supposed to be, but I believe that's the theme of the anime for everything. And that's the underlying message, and that's what they're trying to get across. She's supposed to not be evil because she was meant to be evil. Okay, I'm spinning now.
Do you think that Fafnir not killing people, even though that was his thing when he was introduced, do you think that he is evil? Because
I do. I think
kill anybody.
I think Fafnir was nearly on edge of just murdering everyone around him until he got hooked on video games, and it changed his life. Because he was content to literally murder everyone around him, go back and sit on his pile of gold until they showed him Dark Souls. And then he was like, wait a second. This is fun.
I kind of want to save this discussion for Fafnir's section.
Okay.
Because I do have a lot to say about Fafnir, because there's this interesting character quirk he has that might touch on this. But let's save it.
Okay.
But so what I disagree with Jeremy is basically what Troy was saying is I think she was a member of a group that she did not fit in. And as far as her father threatening chaos to this world, earlier on, it was made clear that there was a war going on, and it wasn't explained what that war was, but that they needed dragons, they needed bodies, and her not being there because she wasn't banished here. She ran here because she was injured and she was going to die. And so her dad was basically threatening, or not threatening, but basically, I don't know what I'm saying. But anyways, he was like, this place that you hold so precious, do you want it to also be destroyed, or are you going to come back with me and help with this war? At least that's how I interpret it.
So I have to ask you a question then, which is, we know of three factions. You have the Chaos, the Order, and the Observers. Which side of that war do you think her father was on if he was the Emperor of Chaos?
Well, obviously Chaos.
And so what would the Order dragons be doing there? They'd be defending and protecting, right? So
defending and protecting where?
Whatever order, like order generally means that you're trying to maintain something that already exists and not allow it to change.
Right, but I doubt they were allied with humans. Well, actually, we don't know much about that world, so I can't make that assumption.
And we're also have to speculate on that world's relationship with ours. There could be a very important reasons why even the Chaos Dragons don't want to mess with our world, and it could have something to do with the fact there are no dragons here. Maybe they were told not to be here, and they can do whatever they want in that world. Just don't come here, and you will be fine over there.
Well, the reason I brought the question up is because he specifically says, how would you feel if other dragons came in because they realized that this place has already been breached and that order is no longer being kept here because the dragons of order have allowed people to come in or they have come in. He says, if anyone finds out that that's the case, then then other dragons will come in and attack, he says. So I'm trying to figure out what faction are these dragons in that the emperor is saying, be worried because they're going to come in and attack, because the order dragons are maintaining this wall, basically, even though it's just in perception. They're trying to say, don't come in here, don't mess with anything, don't affect anybody. So I would imagine that it would be the chaos dragons that would come in, because the observers, that concept seems to indicate they don't get involved.
I think you're assuming that the Chaos Dragons would want to come in. For some reason, Order and Chaos don't want to mess with this world. It's important not to mess with this world, and maybe it has something to do with the fact when a dragon comes here, they tend to stay. Well, there could be a link between all that of like, we're not supposed to go to that world. That'll mess things up.
Yeah, just like at the Comic-Con, because there were like all sorts of creatures that weren't supposed to be there. And who was it that made that fairly clear? No, it wasn't Kanna. I think it was Tohru that was just like, oh yeah, look, there's some. Oh, aren't they cosplaying? No, those are real creatures.
And remember, our world is not magic free.
Right.
Shota comes from a line of mages. So there is something going on in our world that is.
So are you saying that there is either a fourth faction of dragons that are that would want to invade this, that are outside of those groups, or maybe just stragglers that have not chosen to be in a faction? Is that like.
I'm saying that our world might be like a drug to them, and the dragons are like, if we start dipping our toes into that, everybody's screwed.
Well, it's very interesting because, I mean, if we want to build that much, I would consider this additional information. Then I guess it could justify some of her behavior, but I don't think it was explained well enough to justify her behavior.
That's the biggest problem. We didn't get much information about that other world. All we knew is that it was a fantasy type world. There were factions of dragons, and dragons fought humans.
I don't think that's a plot. I don't think that's a plot weakness though, because it is only the first season of a much bigger story.
And also, Kobayashi never asked about it. And it didn't seem like Tohru was so very forthcoming with that information.
Yeah, it's a backstory I think you leak slowly, like Game of Thrones slowly revealing the origins of the ice people. They don't just say, hey, by the way, season 1, just so you know the whole backstory of what's going on with this. Every season you're like, oh, did you know that this happened? And you have to assimilate that. And I think that's fine. I think it's fine we don't know yet. And I think it's at least mysterious enough. Now, if we find out later there is no good reason for it, why wouldn't dragons just come in here and wreck house?
Right.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess the other reason why this to me stood out as such a big issue is because in the very first episode, right away, Tohru says, I am sexually attracted to you. And I'm looking at this going, where's the justification for this kind of a relationship, for you to want this kind of a relationship with this character? And even throughout, by the time we get to the end of the series and we learn what was actually their initial meeting and that Kobayashi saved her life, still, I don't see, nothing happened to me that would tell me this.
To fondle her.
Right. Well, but still, fondle her in this weird form that she doesn't like to take. It just, nothing happened in that introductory sequence to justify, in my mind, that kind of a reaction from the dragon. And you had an interesting perspective on this, Troy, but when that's what happened in the first episode, and I'm going, okay, so they're basically just setting things up and they don't have to really justify their reasons for things. That's one of the reasons why I think that there might just be missing story they're not concerned with.
So what you mentioned earlier was that I thought maybe dragons are just have a thing for maidens. Like it's just a dragon and maiden thing. Doesn't matter gender of the dragon. Dragons capture maidens. That's what they do, and she found her maiden. I don't know if I agree with that after the backstory with the bandit woman.
There's a maiden she let escape, huh?
However, let me be clear. I think all the sexual jokes in this anime don't fit, and that's one of them. Tohru being, I can see being head over heels in love with you, but being like, I'm super sexually into you. Like, why? It's not your species. You've never looked at the species and been like, I like that species. I can totally buy Tohru falling head over heels in love with her after that first night. But I agree with the sexual thing. But I think this anime takes sex as a joke and just crams it in a lot of weird places it doesn't fit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So made me perhaps a little bit more particular about the backstory and any possible plot holes.
Okay.
So we'll see.
Well, I'm going to jump us through this first episode, but a lot of these episodes, there's a lot of just random scenes that happen that I didn't include, and I'm not going to include in the recap. And the plot isn't super heavy because it's really just slice of life, day-to-day stuff. So I'll try to get the gist of what is important. This first episode is really just Tohru coming to Kobayashi's house, appearing as a dragon, and then turning into her maid form. And it's important that her maid outfit is based on a cosplay outfit that she saw while flying. It's not a traditional maid outfit. And it actually pisses Kobayashi off, who is a maid fanatic, that it's not quite accurate. And every time she gets drunk, she makes a big deal about it. That's one thing I do. I love Kobayashi's drunk personality. I love the flip in her from stoic and reserved to wild and uninhibited. And basically, while Kobayashi has to wrestle with, do I want to have a maid? I shouldn't have a maid. I shouldn't have a dragon. And then feeling guilty about it and agreeing to, okay, you can stay.
Especially after she goes, wait, I'm late for work. You can get me there?
Yeah. She gets her first dragon ride. That's not a euphemism. It's supposed to be. I can't tell. I kept wondering, is that a euphemism?
That's like when she was constantly trying to get her to eat her tail meat. There's a euphemism.
Yeah, sure.
Yep.
That's another thing that happens in this first episode. Tohru really, really wants Kobayashi to eat her tail, which regenerates. And dragons eat their own tails. That's a thing. That she says, and but she makes it into a perverted thing, like tail.
Yep.
And Kobayashi refuses
every time,
constantly. We see Kobayashi at work, and we meet her workmate. What's his name? Jeremy's your favorite character.
I think it's Takia.
Yes, Takia.
Okay. We meet Takia, and they go out drinking with Tohru, and that's when we see their inner maid otakus come out, and he transforms into this geeky buck-eyed version. Jeremy, he's your favorite character, so I'll let you talk about him before we move on real quick.
I did not expect this at all from him. We're first introduced to him, and he's just, he's drawn like a regular anime character. But when he goes to the bar, he gets these loopy glasses, and he gets buck teeth, and he starts gesturing. Everything's exaggerated, and he's an awesome, awesome, funny character.
I love his English dub voice. It got very nasally, and
did it change?
Yeah, he got a very big voice change.
That's funny. I didn't actually, in the subtitle version, I couldn't tell a big difference. Just that he was more animated. And then later, we get to see the inside of his house, his apartment, or whatever it is. And, he's got posters all over the walls, posters on the ceilings, like he's gone all out. And he is such a funny character, seeing this dichotomy of these two tones to him that are so very different, that he maintains this composure until he feels like he can completely let go and relax. Mm-hmm. And then the real him comes out. And he's so much like Kobayashi. It's crazy.
I especially liked his relationship with another character that we'll get to. It's one of my favorite parts of the anime. The next episode has a young child dragon show up, trying to get Tohru to come back with her, and trying to get the slut Kobayashi. I was not ready for that little child to start slut shaming her. That was that happened, guys. That was a thing. That was pretty funny. So she called her something else, and I didn't write it down, but it was pretty funny. And this is Kanna, who is another dragon who's been banished to our world, or at least banished from her world due to a practical joke that she pulled.
Okay, plot hole for me. Like, dragons aren't supposed to be here, but they banish her here because of pranks, and then she doesn't ever perform a single prank while she's here.
Yeah, she's not very pranky.
No, I'm looking at the characters and I'm like, that they're not living up to the story, and also there's like, if it's such a horrible place for dragons, why did you send her here?
Honestly, when I got to the end of the anime, I was like, why is Kanna staying? And I completely forgot about this. And my daughters are big fans of this anime, to be clear. They'd already watched it and then were super excited. Their dad sat down to watch it because I kind of skipped it the first time after watching the first couple episodes. I was like, it's not for me. Mm-hmm. And so I asked them, and they're like, remember she pulled a practical joke and got banished. I'm like, what? That has nothing to do with anything that's happened. So that's true. But probably my second favorite character of all the characters. So what did you guys think of her?
I thought she was one of the most adorable characters I've seen in animes in quite some time. And I thought it was hard because she would turn into this dragon that was nearly the size of Tohru in dragon form. But then in human form, she's literally a child, and she ends up going to school. She's in 3rd grade. But it's obvious she's been alive for a lot longer than a 3rd-year-old, or third grader. But obviously, dragon, who knows how long immortality, who knows how long she's really been alive.
Right.
This is the one big problem I had with this show, and I don't want to get too much into it, but I have to mention that the idea of inappropriate attraction advances towards children, I have a big problem with, whether it's for comedy's sake or not. Yeah. And I think there were a couple scenes with Kanna specifically that went a little too far. That being said,
there's a specific episode we actually have to touch on it because it's so heavily featured. So we will.
Yeah, I thought it was inappropriate and unneeded, especially for this kind of comedy. But my favorite moment of her is she reads this thing that she's got to do for school, and it's like study bugs. And so she gets her net, she goes outside to catch a bug that she sees, and like as soon as she gets close to it, she goes, oh jeez. She goes, crunchy.
that was good. I enjoyed that. Yep.
Oh,
I liked when she got the entire classroom to change their vocabulary. Like they kept asking her questions, and she kept answering. What was she saying? Like, it's all good or something like that. And soon everyone was saying
wicked.
it.
It's wicked.
Oh, wicked. And then the teacher comes in and everyone's just going, wicked, wicked, wicked.
Because it was a curse. She turned it into a curse because it was like you could use it as a magic word to get out of conversations that you didn't really want to talk about, like small talk. And so she actually cursed them to all just say wicked. That was really good. It was fun.
The teacher was freaked out. It was great.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually, there were a few heartwarming scenes with her too that I really enjoyed. Like there was a point where, she wanted something and it was just a little trinket, but she realized that, Kobayashi was already at the limits of her budget for right now. And so she put it back without ever mentioning it and letting Kobayashi see. And then Kobayashi did see it and she wound up getting it for her in secret later. And there's another scene like that later that's just about the same thing. And those, I'm vulnerable to that. I like seeing that when people show the maturity of recognizing not being entitled. I really appreciate that. And so that was kind of cool to see. But I completely 100% agree with Jason that she is a major point of contention for me when it comes to there's so many things that these dragons can have a weird time with and a difficult understanding of culture and things like that. They didn't all have to be sexual, or there didn't have to be so many that were. And so she was an issue for me there too.
So one thing I did want to point out, about Kobayashi and Kanna's relationship. Because there's a time where Tohru's gone, and Tohru's basically the guardian of Kanna while Kobayashi's at work. And there's this whole montage of Kobayashi basically being a single parent and coming to terms with the idea that she's got this person she needs to take care of, but she's not able to cook her nice things. She can barely get herself ready for work and get Kanna ready for school. She can't keep up with the laundry. And it's not just a moment of, oh, I miss Tohru. It was nice that they didn't dive too far into that. It was this moment of realization that single parenthood's hard. And I really liked that they kind of focused on that family aspect and not so much the relationship between her and Tohru aspect in that particular side of
I actually
episodes.
fully agree. My favorite thing about Kanna was her relationship with Kobayashi and the evolution of Kobayashi from this person who's letting this weird dragon child stay in her house to a mother figure. And they even call it out that Kobayashi is the mother figure of the group and Tohru is the elder sister of Kanna. That she doesn't look to Tohru as her mom, but she is looking to Kobayashi as a mom. And Kobayashi at first is like, kind of is blindsided by this role in some ways. And there's episodes that we'll get to address it, but I really love watching that evolution of her taking on that role, not rejecting it, not hating it, not whining about it, just coming to terms with loving a child. And as a parent, that definitely had an effect on me.
Super heartwarming. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so she comes to this house, and at first she's very antagonistic, but they eventually, tell her that she can stay, and Kobayashi is very inviting to her, and there's a big scene about, you don't have to trust me, I'm just offering you a place to live. I get not trusting me, and that's completely fine, and really warms her over, and then feeds her chocolate, which, of course, what child doesn't trust you with chocolate? Then there's a great scene in this about they want to go out and play, and they go outside and they have this.
So great.
They basically have a giant dragon battle,
like
laser
Dragon Ball
blast.
Z style.
Yeah, energy blasts, explosions, and Kobayashi yells at them, "You can't be using your full dragon powers." They're like, "This is human level," which I really liked. In our world, this is what humans do. We've been holding back.
Yep.
Actually, my next favorite scene in that is like, oh, let's play like Kobayashi. Like, oh, my back. Oh,
Yeah.
my back.
Right.
It becomes a running gag. Yeah.
But then she concedes every time. She's like, yep, that's about right.
Because she has chronic lower back pain, and that's definitely a running gag. That this which is a good running gag. That I appreciate that one.
Yeah, that one was good. I had a little trouble, and this is just one of those Jeremy things, as Troy would probably call them, where Kanna plugged herself into the wall in order to recharge, right? And I'm thinking,
I knew you'd have a problem with that.
How much electricity does it take to charge a fantasy dragon's magical powers? How much money does Kobayashi make? This is absolutely insane. And how often does she have to charge up? How much money did she just spend doing that massive attack on Tohru?
From a scientific standpoint, if she plugs into a 15 or 20 amp circuit and it doesn't trip, then it's no more than like a refrigerator or a computer.
But then how can she discharge that much energy?
In
Magic. Duh.
So
amplification.
Then that would mean that she has some way to amplify electricity. But
Magic.
the amplification of electricity, basically, you can just hand wave everything with magic. Oh, that's so much bullshit.
So I didn't take this particular anime as critically as I normally would with most anime because it was comedy, and I think
I don't see how you
the characters won me over enough that I was able to hand wave a lot of these issues we've been talking about because I agree with you guys. The plot holes are real; they're there.
Even the dragon size versus the dragon wings, like Tohru's wings are tiny for her giant dragon body. It's fine.
I just figure she's got a lot of helium or something in there, some kind of lighter than air gas makes up because she's an ugly dragon.
And there's a scene where she's on the roof and she's spraying her with this like hose. She's like, this bath feels so good. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, that's as if someone was taking like a squirt gun and like hitting me in the
Right.
shoulder. Like, how is that refreshing, right?
Yeah.
But like I said, because it's not a serious anime when it comes to stuff like that, and it's more comedy and heartwarming slice of life, I was able to forgive a lot of stuff like that. But that was just me.
There's a scene in here that I really like where Tohru doesn't like to go shopping at the mall or department stores because they remind her of castles, and I'm like, oh, she has dragon PTSD, so she has to stick to open markets.
Yep. I actually thought that Kanna in her dragon form, that was the coolest looking dragon.
Yeah, she was a cool looking dragon.
Really pretty feathered dragon.
Fafnir has a cool one, but we don't get to see it.
So his is freaky.
There's a flash of it, him sitting on his pile of gold, but that's it.
Yeah.
The last scene in that episode is Kanna and Tohru exploring the town and learning about the human world and trying to figure out, like, what does a seesaw do, and eventually going to spy on Kobayashi. And we learned that Tohru has the ability to use basically invisible magic. She can make herself invisible. The next episode introduces us to two more dragons, because Tohru has been calling her dragon friends in her dragon world with the phone.
She literally casts a spell on the phone, picks it up, and then is immediately talking with one of her dragon friends.
I did laugh every time she answered the phone because she would say, "Hello, phone."
I don't think that she did that in the sub version.
Oh yeah, in the dub, every time she runs for the phone, when she gets it, she says, "Hello, phone," and then we'll pick it up. So the bath scene actually happens in the next episode because they have to move out of their apartment because it's getting too cramped with the three of them. So they move to a new apartment and they end up talking about baths because they take a bath together, and then Kobayashi gives Tohru a bath in dragon form because they have this big open roof now that the dragons can go lay on if they want to.
Mm-hmm.
I thought the roof would come more into play, but it really only played out in this one scene. We also find out they have noisy neighbors.
Well, no, they did the fireworks on it.
Yeah, they do the fireworks and they do the New Year's Eve sunrise. But I thought it was going to be, like, I guess, plot heavy. I don't know. Because anyway, yeah. Then when they have to deal with the noisy neighbors, or is that in the next episode? I think it's no. Yeah, they have noisy neighbors, and Tohru wants to, but she goes to talk to him, and then she decides she's just going to kill him.
She would like pulls claws out, like she's literally in that moment going to murder all of them.
I never found it believable. Like,
well, she isn't. She's. I firmly believe that she's all bluster and talk. She. The one time we see her with an actual human where she threatens to kill it and there's nothing to stop her, before she even meets Kobayashi, she still doesn't do it. I think she's all talk. I think that's what she's supposed to do. And she is scared of humans. You know, in her dreams, we see that humans hurt her pretty bad. She's not a fan of them for sure, but I don't think she's as evil as she's supposed to be. And then I don't remember the reason why, but Kobayashi had to throw a party to get out of doing some work thing. And basically Tohru's like, oh, I'll invite my friends too. So we meet her two friends. The first is Quetzalcoatl, who's they call Lukia.
Yeah.
The whole time.
Yep.
mm-hmm.
And Fafnir. Now Fafnir is my favorite character just because, you know, he's ready to kill every human he sees. He's like, this is the worst. And then he sees Dark Souls. And he's sitting down the Dark Souls. And then pretty much the rest of the anime, he's playing MMOs. And even other MMO players are taunting him. You guys probably didn't notice. My daughters had to point this out to me. And when he's on the MMOs, he's playing the computer game, and the words are coming up, and he's grunting. They're saying, why have you been on for so long? Go to bed. This is insane. You need to quit playing.
Yeah, I saw that.
And he tells them, you shut up, I'll kill you.
I love Fafnir. And his relationship with the otaku nerd guy and how they became friends just through this bonding of video games. I can't imagine where I'm relating to that, but I had a lot of enjoyment out of that.
Yeah. Yep.
As far as Lukia, I mean, she's fun to look at, but she's both the wise sage and the bimbo at the same time.
I didn't like her character.
And again, they use the highly sexual joke. I will say, at the end half, I started laughing every time she said "Shota baby." I don't know why, but every time she said "Shota baby," I would laugh. You want some help, Shota baby?
So, I was actually excited for this plot point because it was really funny. So there's this character. Are we to Shota yet?
No,
Okay.
No, we're not.
Okay.
Yeah, that's not. Yeah, that's not till episode 6. Episode 6 is the infamous episode in my eyes.
Okay, well then we can wait for there because I do have some commentary on that I want to talk about. But
Right.
I thought for her, I understand it's comedy anime. I understand just about every dragon girl in this anime, even new ones in the manga, they're all huge busted. I get it. But to be bimbo and white sage at the same time just felt off. And
It was odd.
and then there's like this running gag that she got drunk and taken advantage of or something, or did something stupid.
She did something stupid with her sister. I don't know if it's Aztecan or Mayan or something, but I think that's where the
I think you're right.
Because she was a god. She's not a dragon. She was a goddess and is now
Turned
cursed.
dragon? Right.
She looks like some kind of pterodactyl when they show her form. It's really weird.
Yeah. She's a good source for some gags, but past that, I wasn't too fond of her character.
All right,
I
Jeremy,
did think it was. Well, first thing I thought was it was really funny that Jason's found someone who could almost measure up to Ryoka from Occultic 9.
Almost.
Almost.
Nice callback.
Thank you.
Oh, we lost you. Hold on.
Okay.
Try again.
I mean, no, I would probably just echo both of you guys. When it comes to Fafnir, he was really funny to me, just constantly throwing out the threats and just being a big windbag. But that's where I kind of took issue again, because I'm like, these guys both come from this chaos faction and they present themselves as being so deadly and so powerful, but I'm only seeing windbags here. I haven't seen anybody actually carry it out and do something.
It seems like to me that there's some taboo or there's some huge consequence for messing with this dimension by other monsters, by other dragons, by other humans. And I think it's one of the reasons that there's so many different entities from this other universe that can create doors into this one. I mean, obviously, but they never come here. And I think there's a pretty strong reason why, but it's never explained.
Right.
It's really interesting because it's almost like you and I have flipped here, because I'm usually the one who's saying, well, I think there's stuff that we need to read into to understand what's going on in this situation. And you're the one saying it is not spelled out. So we've definitely switched spots here, because I would like a little bit more spelling out from the anime.
I agree with you. I would love more information, but it wasn't given, and it's a comedy. So, and I know I keep using that as an excuse, but I see that. I see that issue.
Yeah.
But
I do want to say on a side note, when the main villain, our daddy, says, if you stay here, other dragons will show up, and it shows all the other dragons already there, I laughed.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, oh, you're a bit late.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, let's keep going. The party, they get drunk, and Kobayashi makes Tohru strip again, which doesn't make any sense because they already pointed out that's her scales she's ripping off. So how is she getting naked? It doesn't make any sense. But
It can't be her.
magic, man.
That's another thing I hate, is that she can completely destroy a room in order to clean it and then magic back the contents of the room without the dust.
Yeah, but they do really establish that is in their magic
toolbox.
Yeah, because multiple characters have that ability.
Right, and then because Kotal restores the playground after a big dodgeball tournament.
We're about to get to.
Okay.
In the next episode, it's the school episode. Kanna goes to school. The shopping was really endearing when they get all her school supplies, and they have probably the most important thing that does actually happen is the talk about uniforms and everyone being the same. And that's where I'm kind of reading into Tohru, you're part of the evil faction. You're supposed to be evil. We're all the same. And she's not. And she keeps saying like, yeah, we shouldn't treat people like that. And you could definitely see some real world application in the messaging there. But I don't think it's too preachy or anything at all. I didn't feel that way. But then Kanna goes to school and she's awesome and everyone loves Kanna. Some love her too much.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll talk about it in episode 6.
Yeah. Go ahead.
But then we get to a really cool scene where the dragons end up playing dodgeball. They weren't even really that bullies. It was really the little girl's fault that they got into this fight. But the dragons come and beat the crap out of them, and then the dragons decide they want to play Dragon Ball.
Dragon Dodgeball. Dragon Ball.
That joke is so obvious, and it totally slipped out, and now I'm kind of embarrassed that I didn't play on it, and I laughed at it so much. So. Anyway, what do you guys think of the dodgeball scene? It's pretty cool, right?
My favorite part of the entire thing is Tohru does this amazing wind up where there's just explosions and dust everywhere and power, and here's Fafnir with the ball, okay, now what? And then he's like, I'm gonna kick your ass. And I loved how the episode started, was with Kobayashi and Kanna looking over the destruction of this field and all the dragons laying face down and this dark filter overtone, and is and this is how this happened. And of course then it's hijinks from there, because it kind of makes it look serious, like something terrible happened or some sort of outside force. No, it's just these guys being idiots.
Yeah, my hopes were up for a moment, and then I remembered a slice of life and went, oh.
Yeah. Okay, so here's my biggest problem with this anime. In my notes, I was taking these notes. Episode 4. I got halfway through the episode before I realized I'm watching episode 5. And I only knew that because I had seen a couple with my daughter, and a couple of these episodes with my daughter, and I knew a character had been introduced that was already showing up. You can't tell where you are in the plot in this anime.
I think that's why I said this was a palate cleanser.
Yes.
This was not plot heavy.
I 100% agree with that. But yeah, just so you know, I watched half an episode without even realizing I was in the wrong spot. And I'm taking notes. I'm paying attention, guys.
Mm-hmm.
So the first half of the episode 5 is Tohru sneaking into Kobayashi's work to observe her in her invisible mode and witnessing a jerk manager yelling at her and tripping him over and over to his embarrassment.
Yep.
Which, and then it leads to a touchy moment between the two characters. But the better part is when they are looking for a place for Fafnir to live, because he decides he's going to live in the human world too. So Toru's like, oh yeah, I know how to apartment shop. We just did that. Turns out you have to have a job and stuff. So she
an identification.
She takes him to
she can magic that. Go ahead.
Yeah. She takes him to the nerd guy's house, and the nerd guy's like, yeah, that's cool. And we kind of see them start living together and playing together. Now, we had talked about how he's super evil too, but I think he's a huge wussy. Because every time they eat, is it mild?
Yeah, you're right.
He might actually all be huff and puff and not powerful at all.
How does he keep his gold safe and amass such a vast quantity of it in this
That's
other
why
dimension?
I'm saying I think there's a piece that's not explained here about the human dimension versus the fantasy dimension. There has to be, because Fafnir, he is introduced as if we're gonna have an evil character amongst this little group of dragons here, it's Fafnir. And yeah, he not only is he seen Huff and Puff, but he's instantly addicted to video games, which I found completely endearing. I loved it.
Yeah. I guess the reason why I staunchly disagree is because I'm not seeing anything in the anime that to me gives an indication that the people making it have tried to create such a deep and interesting story that would span over multiple seasons and go so deep and have such complexity. I mean, I don't see it.
Yeah, I don't.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
I don't see them writing a story that complex.
Fair
and
enough.
I think that's why I'm saying I don't think they put the pieces together and made them fit right. I think they're just fudging it for the sake of,
Yeah,
gags.
I would say. I mean, when you watch South Park, does the lore have to be deep? I mean, there's
South Park's actually funny. This just gets a few guffaws out of me here and there. It's like this. It's just me though. This is just
right.
not my
I think
humor.
people who like this, there's not a need for that lore.
Right.
I can understand. I know how much you love it.
Yeah.
So
now
my guilty pleasure for like comedy style animes is harem animes.
Yeah.
So that's why when I say this has all the like ingredients,
it's all the notes. Yeah.
that I think that's why it probably hit my funny bone as far as
harems were one of the only anime types I could get away with for years. But when it comes to comedy, my favorite comedy types are like if you get the highbrow stuff like Faulty Towers or Keeping Up Appearances or any of the funny British ones or Monty Python and stuff. Love that. Or crazy slapstick, like really good, well executed slapstick. And I didn't really see much of either of those in this, and so it just didn't hit my funny bone that much.
So I'm going to bring the room down, guys, because we have to talk about episode 6, and we're going to do it fast.
Okay.
Sure.
The best part about this is the nerd guy and Fafnir living together and watching them play video games. Is it mild? Every meal, is it mild? Of course it's mild. And how well they work together. They
was start
a very
cleaning up after each other.
Yeah, I really like. They challenge each other in video games for dishes. So good.
Yep.
The first one, they go over to Kanna's friend's house, Sakawa, and
so the way they pronounced it in the English dub was Psychowa, which was fairly. I thought it was a funny running joke because when we first are introduced to this little girl, she is absolutely crazy, and the people in her class do not like her. And she's nuts. And so to call her Psycho was kind of funny.
So Tohru and Kobayashi talk to her sister, who is a Maid cosplayer.
All the
time, full on, like, into it. And so Kobayashi gets really into talking to her. And at the same time, Kanna and her friend go to their room, and then things get weird. These are third graders. There doesn't need to be sexual jokes. Now, when the joke was first started being made, I thought it was just a kawaii thing. It's like, this little girl is so cute, I can't even stand it. She's the cutest, most adorable. And then we started playing Twister, and then we started sitting on each other's laps, and then we started pinning each other down on the floor. And I was like, wow, this is really sexual with third graders, and I'm not comfortable with it. Now, this joke I find uncomfortable. The next one where I'm about to talk about, I find offensive, actually. So this one's inappropriate. Next one I find offensive. Which was they go to Lukia's place because she's now living on Earth too. A little boy was summoning a demon, and to save him, she let herself be summoned.
That's a great premise.
Yeah,
that's a great premise.
And he thinks she's a demon, and so she brings over everyone like, hey, come convince this kid I'm not a demon. And at first he's kind of buying it, but her bounciness, her fan service that she's always exposing makes him embarrassed. And I'm fine with that. That was funny. That like the fact that she was so bouncy and free spirited bugs him. At one point, to convince him to let her to stay, she's offering him like, "All right, up your magic, I'll get you this," and he's saying, "No." And she offers him her body, and I think that's just that. I don't know how that joke got in here. And I'll say every time I read a bad review of it, they were pointing at this episode specifically.
I think it. So I really enjoyed the premise of a summoning circle. Oh, this kid doesn't know what he's doing, and she gets summoned. And even when she's summoned, she's topless, right? I was kind of okay with that joke for shock value, right? And I think it played on like the unsaid, like, hey, I'm busty and bouncy, and kids embarrassed by it. If they'd played on that a little bit, I think that would have been enough of a joke for it, and then just kind of left it, and then throughout the anime, kind of point out, oh, he's still embarrassed by this thing that's trying to.
I thought that was what most of the humor of it was. So most of the times I was like, he's just embarrassed by how.
But her sleeping with him, her constantly pushing her sexuality on him. This kid's a fifth grader, and it was too much. And you're right, it was offensive, and this was just not needed.
I actually asked my daughters this, like, when you watched it, were you offended? Why didn't this offend you? Trying to find some other viewpoint. But to anyone who has another viewpoint, my point is, if it was gender reversed, this was a grown man walking into a bathtub with a little fifth grade girl, that wouldn't be funny.
People would freak.
Yeah, and so South Park made the same joke, and they were pointing out how wrong it is. So this was actually embracing the joke. So I didn't. This whole episode was kind of ruined because of that, and it definitely brings the anime down a mark, because every time they start going into this humor, you're worried it's going to go too far. You're now reading too much into it, rather than, oh, she's bouncy and he's embarrassed. And it's like, oh, but is she seducing him? Because she did offer him sex.
Yeah. I think that the line that they crossed was the line of the initial innocent awkwardness. So like, she shows up, she's naked, she's busty. You can write that off as an innocent, ignorant thing. But then when she immediately, goes into offering different things and everything. And then you also look at the fact that she's supposed to be the dragon known for her wisdom, or the ex-goddess known for her wisdom. Wisdom implies that she probably knows exactly what she's doing, right? So with Psycho, I thought, is there an analog here too? And so I thought of like the little boy that would get a bloody nose all the time.
Right.
And I thought, okay, how would we see him though? He would be the creepy, nasty pervert. Like, everybody would always be pointing at that and being like, no, he's not a friend. He's the creepy one that won't leave her alone. There would be no like cultivating a relationship or having any kind of weird reciprocation going on. So yeah, both of these characters just so awkward and so unnecessary.
Yeah. So with that behind us now, we all have been cringing over that moment, and I hope you got through it with us. Episode 7, the beach episode, where they kind of got a little cringy again, but it's fine. A lot of fan service in this episode for sure. They basically have a fun day at the beach with dragons.
Yeah, Tanya was sitting next to me when this episode was playing, and she goes, "What are you watching?" And I said, "Jason picked this," and she goes, "Oh."
That's pretty great that you just accepted it. Like, oh.
Yeah.
To be fair, the joke of the episode is this, playing off the cliche that there's always a beach episode in every anime, and there does seem to be. And there's always, they even have the episode titles for this anime are actually great. Everyone should go look at them, because this one is the beach episode, really just an excuse for fan service. That's what it's called.
Yeah.
And so at least there's a little bit of a self-awareness to it, but they definitely still turn into the cliche. Well, there is a nice scene of Tohru and Kobayashi talking while they're fishing out in the ocean. Tohru's a dragon during the time, and they're talking about parents. This is the first time this comes up, and it's kind of a running theme between them is the difference between their parents.
Yeah. My favorite scene in this one was Tohru and Kanna go play again. Unfortunately, this time, not only are there people around, but they go in the water because they're like, "What? We're dragons. We can breathe underwater." Because Kobayashi goes, "Don't go too far." And like, why? But then they're like,
Leviathan.
I'll beat you to that dock over there. Okay. And all of a sudden they're just like speedboat under the water. They crash into it and explodes the water. I thought that was pretty great.
The other half of this episode is the Comic-Con episode. They call it Comic-Ket. But the closest analogy I could do is their Comic-Con. It's really great that Fafnir made his own thing to sell, and it's all just a book of curses, real curses
that can hurt real people.
Yep. But no one ever buys them, and he gets all upset.
Well, what I found funny was not only did Tohru discover that they were real curses and that they could hurt people, but then she did not dissuade him from selling them.
Yeah, she didn't care at all.
Yeah, she's just like, oh, these are real curses. Oh, these can hurt people. Oh, well.
There's a mark for chaos.
Fafnir's going to be Fafnir.
Yeah.
But yeah, nobody buys it. He's like,
Because it's a comic thing, she gets to let her dragon tail and wings out, which she really enjoys and becomes very popular because of. She gets a lot of photographers taking pictures of her, and that's the end of that episode. Then the next one is the battle of the bento boxes between Kobayashi and Tohru, trying to make the best lunch for Kanna, and it just ends up being a competition of who can make the best bento box, and it goes back and forth. The point of it is, though, that they've become comfortable enough with each other as roommates to have arguments, to have fights, even though they're not like fighting angrily. That they've reached a new stage, is what basically the point of this was. Tohru loses because she cheats by going to her home, which we find out later is not a good thing to do. She goes home and gets some magic meat that will kiss you.
I don't understand some of this stuff. Like when you bite a piece of fruit and then it barks at you like a dog and then starts kissing you. Like I was so lost.
It's not meant to be understood.
Well, how would you want to understand that? Like,
yeah, that whole scene was not meant to be like analyzed.
I just wanted to understand why it was funny.
No, don't. It's funny because it's slapsticky. Lost your mic.
It's funny because who saw that coming? It's a dog. It kissed you. I laughed.
I did too.
I do like how when Fafnir became a judge, Kobayashi turns to him and is like, what is your character even doing anymore? Like, what is your motivation at this point? Because he just shows up because he's bored.
Yeah.
It was a nice fourth wall break. That there wasn't very many, but I did like that one. And then the rest of the episode, Elma shows up. Now, what did you guys think of Elma, who is a dragon from the other faction rather than the Chaos faction? She's from Order, and she's there to battle Tohru.
I thought she was a dumb character, but she brought a ton of comic relief. Because one of my favorite parts with her is her, like, she's like, the first time you don't know it's coming, but she's like standing here with two plastic bags. She's like, what should I do? I could try this one, but well, I'll never be able to try it. And then like you realize that she's having huge indecision about two pieces of food.
Yeah.
But my favorite moment, I laughed for a good 2 minutes, was she crashes into the apartment. Kobayashi is like, you guys cannot fight here. Go somewhere else. So Tohru opens up a portal to like where they went to go play with Kanna. Elma steps through the portal and then she closes. Tohru closes the portal behind her.
And she's like, "Evil dragon, what you gonna do?"
But I thought Elma filled a comic relief that was needed because some of the other comedy was starting to get old, or at least I think that's probably what was going through the writers' minds. Because she didn't serve much else. Like, she's from the Harmony faction. She's going to bring Tohru back to get her out of this world. And then now she's working with Kobayashi. Which, by the way, she's terrible at.
I don't know how she got hired.
Jeremy, what'd you think of her?
She was probably an unpaid intern. Oh, no, she got a job. She was getting money.
She was paid.
Yeah, she's paid.
She's bad at it.
I kind of think the same thing in the sense that she was a very boring character in some ways, like kind of a dumb character, I guess. I don't want to add to it.
We lost you.
I don't want to put words in your mouth. So a dumb character. But I also think she was a boring character because the concept of her not knowing what good food was or being always hungry, things like that, I thought it was a very such a cheap, simple thing to anchor her character in.
Oh, totally cheap lives.
Yeah, it was really cheap. There was so many scenes that we see where Tohru goes and she gets these exotic foods that are amazing, right? They taste amazing. And so when this character was just eating food and saying, "Oh, this is so amazing. Everything's so wonderful," all I could think was, "Oh, that must be MSG. Your brain cells are popping. You know, you've never experienced that before."
No, even Tohru pointed out that some things in this world are better, like the rice, because they figured out how to crossbreed it and make the best quality of rice. There are things in this world that taste better than their world.
It's true. I just think that when the majority,
but maybe it could just be an addiction to junk food. She loved candy.
Yeah, they all appeared to be junk food, and so I was like, okay, the only thing that makes any sense to me is that she's never tasted the various things in here that make you like. Because of that, I couldn't get past the whole hunger thing.
So I 100% agree. It was simple. It's a cliche. It's overdone. I loved every second of it. Every scene I laughed. It's such a simple thing for a character, and so she's not a deep, complex character. She's not even worth talking about that much. But I laughed at I love the concept of a character who has an important duty to do. They're honor bound, but oh my gosh, sugar is so yummy. And she goes so far as to make an excuse of, I'm just trying to integrate. That's why I have this job. But yet every time she walks by a waffle stand, she has to buy a waffle.
So my big worry was both her and Lukua were going to end up living with Kobayashi, and I'm so glad that they happened.
Mm-hmm. So the next episode, number 9, what happens there? The sport festival. This is what I was talking about with Kobayashi becoming a parent. This one really shows it because Kanna finds out their school's doing a sport festival. She wants Kobayashi there as her mother, and Kobayashi's like, why would I go? Both my parents didn't go to mine. Why is this so important to her for me to be there? And then she, I have this big project I have to do. I just can't do it. And she works hard, pushes through, and realizes that, she's feeling guilty that she's not going to be there. I like that the nerd guy, her buddy, points out to her, like, this is the first time you've ever worried about something like this, isn't it?
This actually endeared me to Takia because he's like, well, it's not a question of if you can. It's a question is if you want to.
Right. Really, really like that moment. And then she ends up, and with his help, is able to get the project done and goes. And then the sport festival happens, and Shota baby. I don't know why. When she calls that out, I laugh. Even after everything I've said and knowing where it's coming from, the way she has that twang to her voice, the English dub voice, the way she calls it out.
It's not in the subtitle like that. I have nothing to refer to.
I'm guessing she probably calls him Shota-kun or something like that.
Yeah.
So there is one endearing moment where Saikawa and Kanna are in a relay race, and this race will determine who the winner is of this whole sports thing. And she drops her baton for passing, and because she was in the lead, and then she falls behind. And of course, Kanna being a dragon, she just, she got it and won. But Saikawa was apologizing tremendously to everybody, and Kanna's like, "No, don't worry about it. This was a team effort. We won. No one's looking down on you. If you had stopped, that's right. If you had stopped running, it would have been an issue. But you kept going." I thought that was a neat little message to throw in there.
And then the dragons go play.
Right.
Then the Christmas episode comes where the market asks Tohru, because she's always shopping there. She's very friendly with all the merchants there. They ask if she'll put on a play for the old folks' home. And Kobayashi can't help. She's got to work. So she gets all her friends, and mostly dragons, to help put on the little match girl. And they go through multiple directors.
Okay,
so story iterations.
So I just have to mention really quick that the first time I ever heard the little match girl story, Tanya told me it because it's something that she's been told many times when she was little in Russia. And I don't know if it is originally a Russian story or not, but it is incredibly morose. It is incredibly sad.
I remember reading it as a kid and crying. Yeah? I actually really hate the story because it makes me so sad. It's so depressing to me.
I've never heard of it until this anime.
Oh,
yeah.
Rough.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so bad. And so knowing what was coming when they showed that and they first started talking about it, I was like, what are they going to do to this story? I love what they did with this. If there's one episode that I would just cut out and say, this to me was perfection in this moment for this anime, I would give 5 bakas to this this play. It was so great.
So the play, they add in magic girls. They add in 47 Ronin.
Oh God.
Because they explain the little magical story in its original, and then they're like, the grandma was evil and like wanted her to like go to like the afterlife with her.
But like they cast Lucia to play the grandma, and she keeps coming across like in her most. She comes in the swimsuit she was kicked off a beach for, and they're like, okay, maybe we could, instead of changing her, change the role, change the cat. So
they were like, this is way too sad. We should change it up. And what about that guy that sells hats?
It was like, where did he come from? Like, that was amazing.
There's also a really endearing scene. Oh, by the way, the play goes off great. But there's an endearing scene in this episode of Kanna waiting up for Santa and falling asleep, and then Kobayashi trying to sneak a present in, but she's a dragon, so her senses are super cute. She wakes up and she has to hide from her. But another nice scene of, you taking on the mom role for this dragon.
But Kanna should have smelled her hiding there. She had sweat beads on her.
Don't you dare.
Using sweat scent.
No. Let me have this.
All right, changing subject a little bit. It was interesting to watch Kobayashi watch this play, because she's like, oh my God, they're going to burn this building down. They're going to kill everyone around
it. They actually lit a hat on fire.
Well, and they performed real magic.
Yes, they did. That was amazing.
And the little people were like, oh, these CGI effects, they're amazing.
That's CGI.
But the point is that Kobayashi then complimented Tohru on her reservedness and doing this really nice thing. Even though it looked super dangerous to her, it allowed her to give in the trust department towards Tohru.
So in the next episode, it's almost New Year's, and we get the most important character of the entire anime, the Kotatsu, which becomes a staple and a focus for everything. And I was kind of jealous. I mean, it's summer right now, but in the winter, I can imagine that thing being amazing. I did have to look up what a kotatsu is, but it's basically what you see in the anime. It's a small table with a comforter like underneath the table part, but over the leg, so you can get under the comforter and be at the table at the same time.
The joke after joke was just perfect with this thing, because everyone's just like, we need to do this thing, but I don't want to move. It's so comfortable.
They just camp under there forever. They still celebrate, and they talk about the Zodiac and other New Year stuff. I really liked this stuff from a slice of life, because I love seeing Japanese culture that I don't really fully understand as an ignorant savage myself. But that's one of my favorite things about anime, is when they bring a little bit of Japanese culture into my life, because I find their culture really interesting, fascinating. That's one of the reasons I love anime. It's kind of synergy there.
So, like, there's a scene where they're watching television for the last couple days of her vacation, and it reminded me of my childhood, where you're just like, why are they rerunning everything? And they made the same comment, like, oh, they're just rerunning the same shows because nothing's on because it's the end of the year.
For New Year's, they go out to the shrine and go out to the festival. Everyone shows up, and they all come back over for a sleepover, and they watch the sunrise together, and it's really nice and special. And afterwards, Kobayashi gets a call from her mom and talks to her, and we find out Tohru gave her for a present letterhead, and she wrote actual handwritten New Year's letters to the people she cares about. One of the ones she sent was to her mom, and that's why her mom called. And at the end of the episode, Tohru and Kanna both get one from her, which I thought was really nice. Mm-hmm. It's one of those, here's what I did over the year. I mean, I hate when I get them, but, if you write them, well, that's good for you. I mean, I'm a narcissistic person who reads those like, oh, you think you're better than me?
You took the time to write this, you jerk?
You think I care? I'm kidding. You can totally send those letters. My wife reads them.
He's not kidding.
They go on the fridge.
The next episode has Tohru planning to make a special dinner. It was the first regular dinner she had made for Kobayashi in the first place. And because of the price of chicken on Earth, she goes to her world and gets a bunch of ingredients. This will come back to bite her in the butt in a little bit. But we do get the flashback. Kobayashi's on the way home and she falls asleep and she has a dream of how she met Tohru. And we finally learned that because of a hard day or hard week at work, she got super drunk, rode the train.
Way more drunk than she's ever been in the entire show.
Drinking
Dragon Slayer
vodka or something like that.
What a perfect.
Good to be thematic. Topical.
Right.
Rides the train to its first destination, ends up in the middle of the mountains, bumps into a dragon, hugs the dragon. The dragon's like, I will kill you. She's like, I don't care. Her reaction to this dragon was super endearing. I kind of wish we had seen this from the beginning because this is like my favorite moment of Kobayashi. The way she's just like, whatever, dragon, have a drink.
She's like, I'm dying. I came to this world because I'm about to. Wait, what are you doing? She's like, I'm gonna get that thing out of you. She's like, no, don't. And she's like,
because it's God's sword, and if you touch it, God's will blow your mind. And she's like, well, if God wants to help, he should change my hours. And then we see them actually. Tohru goes into her human form for the first time, and they bond, and they both get drunk, and have some good laughs. It's a really endearing scene, and actually does explain a little bit why Tohru loves Kobayashi, not why she's attracted to her. I stand by that part, but why she's in love with her for sure. And then Kobayashi invites her to her house, and then that will lead us back to the first episode. She wakes up from the dream and says, I feel like I dreamt about something important I should remember. He does not remember that night happening. Mm-mm. Drunk Kobayashi is best Kobayashi, though. And then we get Tohru telling a story about the bandit woman in her world that we've referred to so many times. She meets a human woman who's like, hey, I want to be a maid. And that's what I would do if I was free. And they just discuss having the freedom to choose to be in slavery, basically.
Yeah.
Help me out.
That's exactly right. Because
the gist of it was being forced into a lifestyle or getting to choose what it is.
And then choosing that lifestyle.
Well, just having the choice. That was her wish.
And this kind of leads into insight why Tohru is so okay with being a maid in this world. Where that came from. I did like that we got to see a follow up of the bandit girl being a maid in the magic world. That was a nice, because I was like, man, we're never gonna know. And then they show us like, oh, she got her happy ending. Good for this random character we met for a minute. Then the finale and this episode leads up into the next episode. Daddy shows up in the human world, and Tohru is going to make the dinner again, but her doubts of what's going to happen, and really her big doubt is that Kobayashi will die long before Tohru will, and she's wondering, like, this is a drop in the bucket of your lifespan, and you're throwing your life away for it. That kind of talk, if you've seen Lord of the Rings, you've been there. Mm-hmm. Basically, Daddy shows up and takes her away. Kanna sees it and tells Kobayashi. In the scene Jason had described earlier about them having to live together with a single parent, and it's super hectic at first, and it's never really perfect, but it's hard. But they work together. She teaches her how to make rice. They work together. But then Tohru comes back one day, and her dad comes right behind her, and Kobayashi stands up to the dad despite his threat to destroy her if she's rude.
Can I talk about this scene for a little bit? Because this was one of my favorite scenes, because this was like one of the real, it gets real. And also it's one of the few times that Kobayashi goes out of her box of comfort without the assistance of alcohol. Because normally it's a very reasonable conversation, and she tries that approach at first. And as soon as she opens up her mouth, Daddy nearly kills her breaks her glasses, and she's shaken. Her emotions are all going haywire. She collects herself. She stands up. She states her demands, states her terms, and is just made me connect with this character even more, because she's just like, you've crossed the line. These are the rules you stated, that you're not going to be able to kill me, and this is what I want, and this is what she wants. And I thought that was really neat. And then of course then they have to go fight. not Kobayashi.
Yeah,
Tohru,
I have to make a little bit of a counter statement there, and one of those is that this father is the emperor of that faction, right? And he is presented as this villainous, powerful character who doesn't give a crap about anybody else. And if you look at any emperor, like, the title itself implies that person is going to probably be narcissistic. They're not going to be concerned about a peon's opinion. And so seeing his reaction to Kobayashi's argument didn't jive with me. He was so much the loving father that wanted the best for his daughter and was willing to break the rules of this world for his daughter's sake. And when she made the argument saying, you can't kill me because then you'd be affecting this world. Well, so is leaving his daughter there. That's affecting this world too. So if he doesn't just take his daughter and go now, anything he does is affecting this world. So, which means that all of them are of similar value, because what his daughter does well in this world, who can say?
Well, if daughter's not fully evil, which is very apparent throughout the entire anime, I imagine that's what stemmed from her, is him, because obviously he has a soft spot for her.
That's what I see, is that they have played up this soft spot, but I think that they shouldn't have made him emperor then. They should have made him someone that's lower in the faction, because being emperor means he's in charge of this faction that is supposed to be known for this.
A title does not change a personality.
Well, what he's emperor of does make a difference. If he was emperor of the Harmony faction, I would totally agree. But the fact that he's emperor of a faction that's depicted as being almost skeleton dragons and happily saying, I will kill you, I will eat you all the time, like Fafnir does, I just don't see him being this super loving father that's going to allow rules to be broken, hide the fact, and, give in to this peon from another dimension's claims and demands. I don't see it being so quick. I can see him going and stewing on it.
It wasn't quick.
Did you not see his eye? Like, the way they drew his eye, how he's like, oh.
Are you talking specifically when he's in dragon form and she standing up to him?
No, when he's in man form. And then right there, you could see in his eye that he's like, oh, I'm considering what you're saying. No, that wouldn't happen. He would immediately jump to, no, we're going to go fight right now. There wouldn't be this moment of, oh, the peon said something wise. Not for a villainous leader.
It was endearing to me. The whole entire scene.
Yeah, I thought it
was great.
Played well. Yeah.
Yeah, I really disliked this entire scene.
I think you cared a little too much about the lore and lost a little bit of the characters.
Yeah, this didn't have a deep story.
Yeah. Oh, well.
So Kobayashi does. Him and Tohru go to have a big dragon battle. Kobayashi gets in the way with the help of Kanna, and basically comes down to, you need to trust in your daughter, and he's like, well, I don't approve. I'm not going to stop you or anything.
And I'm sure that irritated Jeremy.
Yes, it did beyond words. My disbelief could not be suspended by their plot writing.
I think you're putting his title too much into his personality. I think if anything, this anime shows that your personality is different from the faction you're assigned to or a part of.
What if you're in charge of the faction and basically dictating what it is?
What if you're second in command, like your daughter, who is not actually evil?
Chaos faction depicted by evil dragons that want to pillage and kill. How can you say that he doesn't really want to do that?
It's what he's born into, and he's lived that lifestyle his whole life. But that doesn't mean, I mean, Kobayashi or Tohru is also born into that faction, is born to be an evil monster, and isn't.
I don't.
And the whole point is maybe Daddy wasn't as evil as he was supposed to be for this faction either.
I think that is entirely like their story writing just isn't deep enough to express that. Everything is so popcorny and so cotton candy that I can't give them credit to have written such a deep, complex role for these characters to make such an intense statement. I just don't see it.
All right.
I found the father-daughter disagreement thing endearing myself.
Oh yeah.
No one cares what you think.
No. You guys disagree with me. That's totally fine. I'm not saying I'm right.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that's
like
where I'm
you
coming
said
from.
at the beginning, though, this didn't quite hit your funny bone.
No, this is totally out of my wheelhouse.
Yeah.
Completely.
That's fair.
The ending, Tohru goes back into maid service for Kobayashi, and then Kobayashi decides to introduce her to their parents, and so the ending is them traveling to her family home, and that is the end of the season. Any thoughts on that ending, or are we ready to go to final review?
One thing, I guess it's final reviewy, that I wanted to say was I appreciated a witty comedy that did well with a non-traditional family unit. Yeah.
Okay, so why don't you give your final review then?
Okay. Yeah, on the back of that, this had all the elements that I like in a comedy, and it had really great character development and growth between the two main characters in Kanna. I absolutely adored this. I think I remember texting you guys going, this anime is pure joy for me. Like I was, every time I turned it on, it was just happy. That's all I could feel. Mm-hmm. And I felt that more than laughs, which I think was part of it that endeared me, because I connected so well with Kobayashi. I would give this anime 5 bakas if it wasn't for the inappropriate child jokes that they did. I found them offensive, unneeded, and inappropriate. So definitely down to 4 for me. But I absolutely adored this anime.
Okay. Jeremy, how about you?
So growing up, my mom made me watch a lot of period.
Okay, you got cut out, and all you did is your mom made you watch a lot of period. Why'd you try that again?
Okay. So growing up, my mom made me watch a lot of period dramas. And so I am used to slice of life in that kind of a context. And I hated them all. And
thanks, Mom.
Yeah, thanks, Mom. And so for me, this was like, it definitely took me back to this sense of like, I'm just watching a story play out. That's all. There's nothing really at stake. And there's nothing crazy that's going to happen if anything doesn't go just right. It's just another day in the life of, and that's super, super, super hard for me. So,
right. And like you
obviously,
said, like if there's South Park or something like that, at least it's funny.
Yeah, it's super funny because it's shocking almost, right? But I think in addition to that, it did not do a good job suspending my disbelief. The things that it used as a background story, I don't think, just in my opinion, I don't think that they adequately explained decisions, motivations, and behaviors of characters. They didn't seem consistent with their backstory. And based on just the general flavor and lightheartedness of the anime, I don't think that they put enough time into developing the plot to write something that complex and then actually have something that they're actually using doublespeak and it's more complex. In addition, the jokes, I think probably 80% of them were very predictable for me. Like I knew where the punchline was when they were about halfway through the joke, the majority of the time. And so for those, I have a really hard time doing anything more than maybe just guffawing a little bit. And so I do agree with Jason that the overall sensation was it made me happy when I was watching, but that's not what I want when I watch an anime. I want my adrenaline running. I want to laugh. I want to be like, yeah, this is
How dare
awesome.
you make me smile?
Yeah, but I'm like, but I just to just kind of watch it and have sort of a half-hearted smile on my face, like, it's not good enough for me. So for me, this is 2 bakas. Not to mention all the child stuff.
Not to mention all this, for sure. Okay, so quick clarification: our reviews if we think the anime is good or if we enjoyed the anime. Because honestly, I have 2 different minds on this anime about that. I think it's a really good anime. I only mildly enjoyed it. So I'm going to give it 3. I'm going to go 3 bakas. Just because I 100% agree. I was happy when I watched it, but I didn't find it super entertaining. The disjointedness was a little bit rough on me. The child stuff was a little bit icky. Just the sexuality that was not sexuality, the sexual jokes that were crammed into there that didn't belong, except for Shota Baby. But I do think this is a really well-made anime. I think the characters are really endearing, and as far as taking the harem anime tropes and using them in different ways is really cool. And I think if this is your style of anime, you should 100% get into this anime. I think it is for you for sure. That will finish up for us. If you have nothing to go on next week, there's a very special minisode coming because we're hitting a certain anniversary. Our anniversary, the anniversary. Wow. And
that's creepy.
We're going to be talking about our year doing this podcast, and I'm actually really excited to do that. So if you want to check that out next week. But the anime we'll be watching in the meantime is It Wrong to Try to Pick Up Girls in a Dungeon? It's a 13-episode anime. It is about a guy going into dungeons and picking up girls. I assume. I didn't actually look it up. I feel like the name's so specific, I shouldn't have to look this up.
Yeah.
It's actually, that's almost a side point. Okay, I've seen the anime, but I'm actually excited to see it again.
Okay. So we will be watching
But it's not like a dude diving into a dungeon and constantly picking up on different chicks. That's not what it's about.
Then I'm already half disappointed.
Well, it's got the ribbon, the ribbon under the boobs thing.
Oh, good. So more fan service.
Okay.
Because there can never be enough of that.
That's right.
Speaking of Food War Season 3 coming, yes. If you want to comment on your thoughts on Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid, it was a very popular anime. I'm sure a lot of people have opinions, and a lot of people are going to disagree with us one way or the other. We would love to hear it. You can reach us on our Twitter at Baka Podcast. You can reach us on our email, theanimebakaclub@gmail.com, or leave a comment wherever you found this podcast. We would love to hear from you. We would love to start the discussions. We will only slightly talk about icky child stuff, though. Just warning, we don't even want to deal with the whole internet's a bad place, guys.
Hate mail. Send me your hate mail. It will only make me stronger.
Okay. And with that, we are going to say goodbye.
Thanks for listening.
Shota Baby?
Shota Baby. Sayonara.